So, we came to the tennis courts to try out these new headphones, but the courts are slammed and there's so many people waiting. So that's not happening today. We will try tomorrow morning. But we are testing out these new Soundpeats Air3 HS Deluxe. Sounds like a burger. But, yeah, I'm just saying right off the bat, man, I can't get these things to keep staying in my ears. Man, there's not that great of a seal because I can hear everything around me. But hopefully we can resolve that in the next 12 hours. But, yeah. Also, there's no ANC, so I was going to do some, like, tests out here in terms of, like, how things isolate and give you guys some sound samples, but I can't do that. So, for now, we will work with this microphone samples outdoors, and then we'll go inside and teach you guys about what that sounds like indoors. So, please hold. Okay, so we have had the worst luck in terms of trying to be outside in the field or tennis courts to try to get some tests on this. Apparently everybody either wants to play tennis or they have some organized event on the field, so we can't really test it all that hard. We did do some sort of gent testing just to get an understanding of how far you can use this in open air. That we kind of rendered similar to what our previous review on the Engine 4s were about 50 yards. So in open air, line of sight, 50 yards. Again, this is Bluetooth 5.2, pretty commendable. Again, as I'm starting to get to later generations of Bluetooth 5, I'm expecting a little bit further in terms of like more like football field length, but since it's not 5.3, I'm not putting that sort of moniker or that benchmark on there like I was on the Engine. So 50 yards for these headphones are pretty solid. Again, that previous clip that we showed you was the outdoor sample of the microphones. So this one's the indoor. There's less going on, but in both samples, they do some good job about blocking out sounds. So right now, Samika's practicing piano. You can tell me if you can hear that, but from what I've heard on calls and different things at work, it does a good job about taking out white noise. So it's good about taking out like air conditioning in my room and things like that. The thing that I will say is that the sound is actually a little bit more natural and there's a little bit more bass tone in it than the Engine 4s. So microphones on these are really good, and I'm guessing it's because of the stem design. Generally, stem design does a little bit better about giving some more natural tones. It doesn't have to process as hard. It definitely gives me a little bit more loudness in my voice, and that's something that my clients were telling me was better with these headphones than with the previous headphones that we tested. So microphones, super solid with these. Again, not the most natural, but definitely more natural than what we heard with the Engine 4. So not much to complain about. Let's go back into my studio so that we can talk more about these headphones in depth.
So as you mentioned, we wanted to test these out in the field and all this sort of stuff, but with availability and lack of tennis courts, there was just nothing that we could do. And then now, after work, it is now raining. So I don't want to take these out because these are only IPX4 rated. So while these will hold up against, some splashes, some sweat and things like that, it's not going to survive a rain, like any sort of downpour or even like a light shower, because I just don't want these to malfunction. So I'm not willing to risk it out there. However, I did take this on to the gym, and it was fine because, it's just a little bit of sweat. I wasn't also doing any cardio, so I wasn't like pouring sweat like I would if I did one of those days. But the thing that I will say is that the fit is going to be where you'll have to figure out if this works for you. These are super lightweight. Like, they don't feel like anything when you're in your ear. Like, I can see if that you're able to get a consistent fit, these would like disappear and you wouldn't even know. Like, it's just amazing how lightweight these are. And again, with the stem design, generally they fit closer to head and they don't have any sway. So that's what I do like about them. However, for me personally, especially in my left ear, I just can't get a proper fit. I can't get a proper seal. I find myself fidgeting with this all the time. And again, like I was doing a non-cardio day, so I was just doing lifting, so it was fine because nothing flew out, but it was like constantly feeling like I was on edge because it felt like it was almost falling out. So like I'm always like adjusting it, I'm always twisting it around and all this sort of stuff, and as a result, I'm just activating all the controls. And that's not like any gripe here, because the controls are super responsive. I love the fact that the controls are really responsive and they're intuitive and all that sort of stuff. But because of the, you know, improper fit that I'm getting with these, I'm just constantly activating them because I'm trying to keep the headphones from falling out of my ear. See, I just activated music on accident. But yeah, that's my biggest gripe around these, that I can't, you know, just keep these in my ear. This is a similar issue that we had with the Air 4s, and that's the improvement from these, that I just couldn't get them to settle in. And no matter how much I let them break in, like I was hoping that maybe there's a film on them that they could break down and some stuff. They just wouldn't give me the proper security that I'd like. It's not until they came out with the Air 4 Pros where they had a silicone tip where I really started appreciating the headphones more, because again, the lightweight was there. They just had a lot more security, and I'm not fidgeting with that, so I could actually appreciate the really responsive controls. However, I will say that like as much as they are responsive, it's just a little bit less comforting than, like, let's say the Engine 4s, because there's not a flat surface that you're hitting. You're hitting this round thing, and it's not like perfectly flat, and it comes on a curve, and it just you're hitting the right spot. It just feels like you're missing, but you're actually activating because it's super responsive. So nothing hugely crazy. I think that's more of a preference thing on my end, but that's just something I want you guys to keep cognizant of when you're using these. In terms of special features, there's not a ton going on in terms of like ANC and transparency. In fact, there's nothing going on. They're just baseline headphones that you know, are lightweight and supposed to have a good sound and things like that, but there's not going to be like a way for you to like listen to your barista, like activate transparency mode, or like really block out your surroundings with these particular headphones. And I think that is a shame, because the seal is just not there because of the silicone, and maybe that's the reason why they couldn't execute it for these headphones. But the problem for me is that, like, one, I can't get a seal on these. ANC would still be nice, but even if I had ANC, I probably wouldn't even get a good enough seal for me to appreciate that ANC. So I'm not like heartbroken that it's not here. The biggest thing for me is that the seal just isn't there, and I can hear everything around me like very, very clearly, like extremely clearly, like so clearly, like people's conversations. I don't feel unencumbered from here to here. It's about the same. So I just activated stuff again. So yeah, I'm hoping you guys understand the qualms that I have with this. Again, I think if they made things like, let me think, like if they made this, well, obviously if it came with silicone tips, I'd love it. But if it came with like rubberized heads, I think that would help tremendously in the security. But the lack of seal is going to affect my enjoyability, just because I'm going to hear stuff around me, but also like potentially with the music experience, because I'm not going to be able to lock in as much, or I'm not going to be able to hear the bass as strong, or I'm not going to be able to get the volume that I require, because, you know, things are just seeping in and it's just slightly in my ear. So there's some improvements that could happen to this style of headphones if they keep trying to pursue this design language in the future. Again, for me, if you have a strong enough seal, you may not need ANC. Like the Engine 4s that we have here, like they don't have ANC, but they still have a really good fit, really good seal, and it doesn't have ANC, but I don't miss it because there's enough volume and it doesn't affect the music as much. So like I'm not, you know, disconnected through the lack of ANC. But they do have other things. So let's go talk about latency and how this works with games and media. So as we get into media consumption, whenever you have like a visual in front of you, you definitely want to use that game mode that is in the Soundpeats app. That is going to be extremely important because it will activate that 60 millisecond gaming mode that will give you a lot better synchronization between what you're seeing and what you're hearing. If you do the LDAC setting alone, you know, depending on your phone, you may have a little bit of lag, but the gaming mode will ensure that you have the best synchronization possible. This stat here is pretty good. Like I've seen lower for sure in terms of like gaming focused earbuds and headsets, but in terms of like the market industry standard and popular headphones out there, it's faster than the AirPods Pro 2, which usually is around like 125 milliseconds. So you're getting half of that, which is great. So you shouldn't have any issues, you know, watching your movies, watching your YouTube videos, and definitely not playing games. You won't see yourself at a disadvantage, and you won't be seeing like lips flapping in the wrong sequence. So this is something that's going to be really important for you guys that are like big media consumption people and have a lot of screen on time because you're playing games and watching movies. So now as we talk about sound, this is obviously the most important aspect of headphones and earbuds. I want to start with the codecs. So they do have LDAC, SBC AAC. The LDAC's great. Obviously, it gives you access to a higher quality sound as long as your phone supports that codec. But it's also important to know that that LDAC comes with caveats. So it's great for music. It's great for all that sort of stuff. However, once you start going to media, like especially as you were talking about like videos and stuff like that, you may see lag with LDAC activated. It might be very minimal depending on, you know, your phone and all that. Like on my Pixel, it's pretty minimal. It's still noticeable, but it's you know, could get away without swapping it in the settings. But for some other phones, you might need to swap that out every time that you watch videos versus music, you know, just to get the best synchronization between, you know, the visuals and audios. Obviously, we just went over gaming mode. The gaming mode doesn't leverage it as much, so like it does give you that lower latency at 60 seconds, but you're not gonna be able to get that if you're just LDAC no gaming mode. So if you want the best out of your music, you have to make a caveat. If you want to get the best out of your videos, you're gonna have to make a caveat. So it's just something to keep in mind as you go forward. As we talk about their app, as I've noticed with most of Soundpeats headphones and earbuds, is that you definitely need to want to play with the app a little bit because of tuning. Generally, the earbuds sound a lot better once you use another preset, or if you know, do adaptive, or you do custom EQ. Unfortunately, despite having settings in the app for those, I can't use any of them. So they do have a preset section. I can't click it. They have an EQ section. I can't click it. I can set up adaptive EQ and I get a curve, but I can't activate it. So I'm not exactly sure. I uninstalled the app. I reinstalled the app. I reset the headphones. I factory reset the headphones. I done everything I could think of. But for some reason with these Deluxe HSs, I can't get any sort of EQ going with them. So usually with Soundpeats, I give you like a sample of the classic mode as well as like the adaptive EQ, but for this one, I can't. So really all I can talk about is just whatever preset they've given me for these headphones. I'm not even sure if it's classic or another preset that they have in their toolkit, but it's whatever the default is for these HS Deluxes. So let's talk about the sound overall. It is extremely bass bloated. That's the first thing that I noticed while listening to it. And like I listened to it for hours to evaluate the battery, and it didn't like really get clear. Like sometimes, you know, like burning in some headphones, like giving it some time to breathe will, you know, bring in some more clarity, bring in some more characteristics. Now it's just very bass forward. And that bass forwardness can override some instruments at times. I just really noticed that with rock a lot with hip hop. It's just like the bass is there, very present, and like a lot of the times it's messy and muddy. So it's not very punchy, and as a result, it makes the song like very unseparated because it just swallows the song in a lot of instances. So I know like I threw some like even some like J-Rock tracks at it, and it was just like all bass. The like, and I think the thing that makes that really rough is that the vocals, like when I was listening to like My Chemical Romance, like the vocals just lose a lot of punch. They lose that oomph, that soul behind them, so they sound empty, which is unfortunate. The times where I saw voices really shine is when the bass is removed, or when it's like simpler arrangements. So I put a Sammy Ray song on. Her voice sounds great when the horns are not all in full effect. So if it's just like a solo, the clarinet alone, like anytime there's some isolation with her voice or just her voice and another instrument, she sounds great. Backup vocals sound great. Individual instruments sound great. Clarinet sounded especially good on this one. However, just once they got big band, full horns, all that sort of stuff, that's when I was like, I lost the plot on the whole thing. So I just can't, I don't know. I don't know what that is. And then with R&B, it kind of got better, but I think I got lucky with the song. So I did a song by 𝐇𝐎𝐒, and he's a French R&B guy, and it was relatively balanced. The low-end synth, or the low-end percussion that they were using, not percussion, it's the low-end bass element that was in there. It's like just on the verge of staying in balance, but you can definitely tell that it's more emphasized than everything else in the song, and it just somehow works. Where I really found that these headphones sound really, really good on is Afro beats. And it's really because their percussive elements are more light and airy. They are not like hard-hitting drums. It's like very light and mid percussions that just bring like a little tropical vibe, or just like a little bit more like fun and dancey vibe without a hard bass line. So I think that's the reason why the vocals sound better, the mids sound better, the overall song sounds a lot more balanced because there's just not that bass like swallowing the song. So overall, that's the way that I feel about the sound signature. So let's give you guys some samples so you can listen for yourself.
I've been craving for you. Please, let me show them. We wanna go.
So, in terms of the Soundpeats HS Deluxe, it's a no. It's just a no. There's just a lot of things that this headphone is missing. And I think the biggest one, like of all the things I've mentioned, the biggest one is it just doesn't fit in my ear. I cannot for the life of me stick it in my ear and have it stay there for more than 30 minutes. Like it will fall out. And as a result, one, I'm not going to get a seal. I doesn't have ANC, so I can't isolate away. It also just won't give me a good seal for the music in general, so there could be some potential in there, but I can't bring it out. And then there's just some technological stuff of like lack of transparency, app support. I don't know if that's just my unit, but I just couldn't get that thing to work. And again, usually their app is great. Just for this HS Deluxe, it's not so deluxe, unfortunately. If you're interested in something that's this shape, like stem design, lightweight, all that sort of stuff, look at the Air 4 Pros. Those things have everything you need in terms of ANC transparency, seal, comfort, longevity, active controls. Like everything that you need is in that headphone. Everything that this headphone needs to be better is in that headphone. So check out the Air 4 Pros. If you need a review on that, I have that in the link above. So definitely awesome. Also, obviously, they're doing a promo for the next day or so. If you're looking for a little bit off of some Soundpeats, I have a bunch of links on the bottom that'll help you shave off a ton of money. So you guys get these for even cheaper. Just don't get these. Look at anything else. Everything else is great. I would just stay away from these. Thank you guys so much for sticking around. I know this one is a little bit more negative. I love Soundpeats, don't get me wrong. It's just like this style of headphone just does not work for me. Might work for you, but I'm just trying to give you guys the most honest opinion I can. For my OGs, thank you so much for sticking around. I love that you guys have been watching the lives, that you guys have been watching the shorts, especially the shorts, as well as all the videos that I put out. I know I've been putting out a lot of luggages, and some of you guys have been wanting tech, so this is my foray into getting back into tech, although don't shoot me. There's going to be some other luggages and bags and other things like that. So definitely appreciate you guys tuning in for that. As always, like, you know, you guys help drive the content of this channel, whether it be helping me find a partnership or, you know, giving me suggestions for what you guys want to see. It always helps me build up my queue and figure out what I should put on next. So definitely leave comments and do all that sort of things. So if you could, please like, subscribe, comment, do all the things you normally do on a video that you like and love. And as always, I appreciate you. Peace. See you soon.